Sikha from Lamed Vav?
Yeah.
There's two Sikhs in Lamed Vav?
Yeah.
Okay, I trust her. No, I think you're right. Yeah, it went through them. I don't know. He went through all 12 Pesukim and how they like tie into each other and how you're supposed to like follow it for your way to Hashem. It was so cool. But I was wondering if you knew what Sikha it was based off of. I want to learn it. Yeah, we do that in class.
I can easily look it up and find it. Yeah.
We learned that in class.
He said it was from Chelik Lamed Vav or from the year Lamed Vav?
Year. It was 2 parts.
How late did he go?
4.
What? 4?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
It was so cool, but I don't remember all of it. I want to remember all of it. I wish we tried to like make a flow chart after. But just our brains at 4 o'clock in the morning. It was not successful. Yeah, how people felt when they went to that was for the.
Well, the Rebbe used to say a mime at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then after that, they would sit down and do Chazorah to review the mime
That's what we were
to
doing.
remember it. Yeah.
But we couldn't write it down. That was.
Okay, so we are going back to complete and finish the mimer of Nasana. So to go over just briefly to bring it up to where we're up to now. So the mimer started with the fact that the pasuk is dealing with an actual Navi. He used to come to the house of the Shunamis, and she said that we have to make an apartment for him, so when he comes, he's going to be settled, not just have a sort of unsettled and a temporary place, but let's build him something more permanent. They made an apartment for him, and in the apartment, they put in a table, chair, a menorah, and a bed. And he goes on to say that in the Zohar says that these are 4 tikkunim for the Shekhinah. And he goes on to explain that on a personal level, what is a Navi? Navi is a godly person. So on a personal level, everyone has a spirit of Hashem in them. And what we want is to set up something where that spirit of Hashem should be able to be revealed there, and manifest there, and not just revealed, but be revealed in a permanent way. In order to do that, there are 4 things in terms of our avodah, and one of them is compared to the bed, and one is compared to the table, one is compared to the chair, one is compared to the menorah. So the Maimer, good morning, he began to explain, the first thing was Mita, and that's the avodah of Krishma Shalamita, the avodah of Meir. Our avodah starts with the night. And what is the avodah? The avodah is basically Cheshbon HaNefesh, to make an account of what the previous day looked like. And the main part, the main point of this account is in order to make a resolution what tomorrow's day should look like. That when you go to sleep, realizing where I need to correct things and how I can improve and how I can grow, and you make this decision at night, and you go to sleep with that, that's how you wake up in the morning. And that is the Avodah of Mita. In the morning, there's the Avodah of the Avodah of the morning is the Avodah of davening, which is the davening of Shachris. And in Shachris, there is few parts. There's the part which is called Psukkah de Zimra, and the part which is called Berachas Krishma and Shema, and then comes Shmona Esrei. So the Shachris, all these parts together, they're all the other 3 things, which is the table, the chair, and the menorah. What happened to Mincha? So he explained that on the contrary, Mincha is the highest level of serving Hashem, and therefore all these other tefillos, the night, Ma'ariv and Kriya Shema Shalamita, and the Shachar, they're all the preparation that the Mincha should be the way it should be. So the main thing he elaborated on until now mainly was what the davening is, the Psukkah de Zimra, and the brachas of Shema. What is it all about? It's all about transforming my Nefesh Bahamis. And he explained how the Nefesh Bahamis is not, in essence, negative. Nefesh Bahamis, in essence, is a desire. It's a very big, a strong force, and it's a force that has a desire, and the desire itself is not negative, and the force itself is a force, it's positive. The problem is the tzir hara, the yetzer hara, not the nefesh bahamis. When that force, which is sort of parav, gets formed and shaped in a negative way, that's when it becomes negative. So our avodah is to take that force and that desire and that passion, turn it around, redirect it into a direction where it's going towards kedusha. And the main thing is not just that it should have a desire for kedusha, but that the nefesh bahamis should get to understand and appreciate and value and understand godliness. Naturally, the nefesh bahamis can't relate to godliness. It's a behemoth. The behemoth can't relate to godliness. It's not in the same world. It's in a different world. It doesn't get it. So the avodah of the nefesh kiss is to bring godliness down through understanding and perceiving what Hashem is all about and the relationship between Hashem and the world, but in a way that even my nefesh bahamis will be able to grasp it, and slowly we're able to help the nefesh bahamis lift itself out of where it is and become transformed. And then he explained how the transformation is basically two levels. Number one, they gave the marshal of carving out a vessel. When you carve out a vessel from a log, there are two stages, two phases. One is where you carve it out from the log, that you can even work with it. And then you have to carve in, which is to make it a vessel, to make it a bowl or a keli. Same here. First, Nefesh Bahamis has to get to realize that God's B'chlal is also relevant. Until then, godliness is not even relevant to Nefesh Bahamis. Not even something to talk about. Not something even to give any attention to, any importance to. Once the Nefesh Bahamis gets the general idea, it sort of shakes it up to realize, wait a second, this is also something important. Then it gets to realize on a deeper level what godliness is all about. And from its understanding, the Nefesh Bahamis becomes transformed. And he concludes that this is the avodah of the Shulchan and the Kisei. So the Shulchan, he explained, this has to do with transforming the Nefesh Bahamis, the form, the shape of the Nefesh Bahamis, which is Klippa. And that is because, again, you remember we said that he doesn't really elaborate it, it just says all this depends on the table. So we understood this to be more refined Nefesh Bahamis. So now it depends on the food that we eat. Number one, that the food is kosher, and number two, that I make the bracha before and make the bracha after, and I eat in a more refined way. Good morning, welcome back. And that is what will determine how refined the Nefesh Bahamis would be. Just reminds me of a story with Rabbi Mangel. Rabbi Mangel is one of the older chassidim here in the neighborhood. He's the one who translated the siddur into English. And he told the story that happened with him personally years ago. Back in the 60s, there were a lot of issues with cults, and a lot of Jewish kids were getting lost in different cults. And there were those people who were involved in cult, following a cult. Yeah. It's still out there, but it was a time where it was really late 60s, early 70s. There was a lot going on. In fact, Rabbi Shia Hecht, who has the office right across the street here, he was very involved with getting Jewish kids out of cults. So one time there was a boy who grew up in a frum home, modern Orthodox, and he was lost, and eventually he ended up getting involved in a cult, and the parents could not do anything about it, and he got these people who were more professional, they got involved, and they managed to get him. And he came back home, and he was back with his family, back to Yiddishkeit, but it was one step that he wasn't ready to take. And that is that they knew that in order to make sure that you break the spell completely, because it's all the brainwashing process, when do you know that they broke out of that brainwashing if they're ready to take the picture of the cult leader, the guru, and burn it? Was that they couldn't do. And this Bachar, even though he became from again, and he came home, and he did everything, but when they told him, okay, now take the picture, remember I told you the whole segment that was skipping because it's a little bit too Kabbalistic. So let's start again from the beginning on page 135 from Vehine, because we're just going to do a few lines on this page. And then, so again, we're doing the Mamar Naseh Aliyas Kir Ketana from the Friedrich Rebbe, and it's found in Sefer HaMemorim Mulakotim, and it's in Chelik Aleph. So now he goes to Kisei. So if the Mita, the bed that represents davening Ma'ariv and Krishna for the Mita, and the table that represents the davening Sukkah de Zimra up until the Shema. And the Shema is Kisei, the chair. In a Kisei of Kriya Shema. The Parsha Rishon, the Kriya Shema, who Shema Yisrael, Avaya Elokeinu, Avaya Echad. Krishna begins saying Shema Yisrael, every Yid should hear, but here could mean two things. Number one, it could mean literally audio, just to hear a voice, or it could mean to hear and perceive and understand and really take it in. In Yiddish, he says it in Yiddish to emphasize it, Yid der Hert, which means not only he hears it, but der Hert, which means it registers and it penetrates as Avaya Elokeinu, as Avaya Echad. That God, our God, is one, which means that Avaya Elokim, Hashem is one, He is everything, even in the natural world, and everything that's happening in the world is all from Hashem. And then we're going to skip all the way to the bottom, the last four lines on the bottom. In here, he goes into how the word kisei and the Shema, certain words, how it's all represents different levels spiritually. And then in previous past experience, we get lost over there. So I'm going to skip to Hina. There's a fourth line from the bottom. The middle of the line begins with the Hina. Hina Ksiv, it says, Vad re'ei zeh matzasi. I found, this is a pasuk in Koheles. Asher also Elokim es Adam Yosher. Hashem created a person Yosher, straight. But behema bigshu cheshbonus rabim. But people start searching all sorts of accounts. In other words, Hashem creates us straight, and we're the ones who make things not straight. When it says Asher also Elokim es Adam Yosher, that Hashem makes man Yosher, straight. Inei ha'adam, the word Adam, koyal never shall kiss. Shenikra Adam. Nefesh Elokis is called Adam, which means a man, because the Nefesh Abamis is called Behema. So the Nefesh Abamis is a Behema, and the Nefesh Elokis is the Adam, the person. But Nefesh Elokis, let's turn the page, Nikra. We're turning to page 136. 7. which means the nefesh l'kis be'etzem u'badregas yosher. The nefesh l'kis in itself is defined and described as yosher. What does yosher mean? Meshkasav, as it says, "Lases es hayosher be'enei Hashem alekecha," to do what's right, what's straight, what's honest in the eyes of Hashem. To hayosher the Torah mitzvahs. This is what we find in Torah mitzvahs, that it directs us how to lead a life which is straight and honest and the way it's supposed to be. And they, what's the they? Hashanasim hema, hema is plural. When they become two, the nefesh l'kis is not alone. Now he has a nefesh bahamis as a chavrusa. It's a new story. You read this in the neshama beguf, when the neshama goes into the body, that nefesh l'kis mislabish by nefesh bahamis. The nefesh l'kis gets invested in the nefesh bahamis. Name shtayim. Now it's two. It's plural. Hema. Oh, zine bikshu cheshbenis rabim. That's when you start getting lost in different directions, in wrong directions. Otherwise, it goes straight. V'hainu pizur hanefesh, berabes, machshavas, hatordes, mavavelis, oisem avedes Hashem yisborach. When the person is all pizur hanefesh literally means spread out, but it means my mind wanders off into all different directions. Here I'm thinking about food, and here I'm thinking about money, and here I'm thinking about honor, and here I'm thinking about power. Different things that are all not related to my purpose with which I was created, which is godliness. And that's because there's also a nefesh bahamis. And therefore, it gets involved in all these things. Haturdes, I say, all these thoughts which disturb the person, and they confuse the person, and they distract him, me'avedes Hashem, from serving Hashem. And it leads to speech which is not godly, and thoughts which are, and actions which are not godly. It starts with the thought and goes to the speech and action. So that's what Shema Yisrael means. And here he gives a new insight into the word Shema, even though Shema literally means to listen. But Shema also could mean asipa v'kibbutz, to gather together. There's the pasuk by Yishama Shaul Esa'om, and Shaul gathered the people. The Tirgum and the Targum, which is the translation in Aramaic, says Ukanash Shaul Yosama, that he gathered the people together. That means that Shema Yisrael means something about gathering together, meaning to say Shema Yisrael she'ikabez v'yesed machshaveisav diburav u'maisav liyos yosher. He should take all his thoughts and all his words and all his action, and they should all be gathered together to be going straight, basically all in one direction.
Why is Yashar written like that?
What?
Why is Yashar written with Rosh Tevot?
Why is it Rosh Tevot? I don't think that it's. I don't think it means it's an abbreviation or acronym for something. I just think it's an emphasis. In those days, that's what we used to write. When to emphasize something, it would do two lines. The difference between the nefesh bahamis before and after is before the nefesh bahamis is involved in multiple things. In general, it says the difference between kedusha and klipa is kedusha is oneness, and klipa is a lot and many different things, multiple things. An example that's given, brought down the classical basis for this in Chassidus, is when the Chumash, it says that Yaakov Avinu came to Mitzrayim, and he came with 70 people. But the words in the Chumash are, he came with Shivim Nefesh. Nefesh is singular, Lashon Yachid. 70 people, why does it say Lashon Yachid? The answer is because this is Yaakov, and this is Gedusha. So even though there were 70 people, but they were all like one. Esav had 6 people, and the pasuk says, the Fashois, which is plural. So on the surface, it's because, oh, in Kedusha people get along, and Klippa people don't get along. But it's not just get along and not get along. It's deeper than that. It's about my life. If a person is serving Hashem, then really everything in his life is unifying. It's all one. By eating, why do I eat? To be healthy. Why do I want to be healthy? So I could live and do what? Serve Hashem. I sleep, so I should be rested. Why do I want to be rested? So I should feel good, so I should be able to serve Hashem. I go to work and I earn money. Basically, everything is going in one direction. Everything is united. It's all one. Yes, it's doing different things, but it's all one. It's not a splintered life. Everything in my life has one ultimate goal, and that is to serve Hashem. In order to do that properly, I need to do everything else that goes along with it. But in Klippa, being that you don't have that serving Hashem, so therefore everything is a separate goal completely. Eating is for the sake of eating, and sleeping is for sleeping, and business is for business, and entertainment is for entertainment, and social life is social life, and everything is pulling me in different directions. But in Kedusha, it's all Yasha, it's all one. Why there is one. So how do I get there? Then everything becomes gathered together as one. Yep.
Could it be thought of, or is it thought of that while the people has no purpose in and of itself, that there is a purpose in that the strength we need to take to turn away from it is purpose?
Why Hashem created Klippa?
Yeah, so like, if we're trying to when we're turning away from Klippa, that turning away
If
itself.
I'm turning away from Klippa, I'm thinking about a person who lives a life that not everything is permeated with godliness.
Right, yeah, I'm not challenging, I'm just wondering, could that be thought of as a purpose?
It is, of course.
Oh.
That is the purpose. Like, so how does it come out? There is bonus b'avaya l'keinu chokhma binu shemoker es havus b'avaya echad avaya l'shalisi. So it's Shema Yisrael. How do I bring everything together when I think about the Eibishter Havaya Elokeinu is the source of all creation, and Hashem is, like it says, Ani Havaya Lo Shanisi. Hashem never changes. Hashem is all one, and the fact that He created a world and there's a million things in this world doesn't take away from Hashem's oneness, because everything is one with Hashem. So therefore, it's all one. It's all Shama. It's all gathered together as one. And how is it that there are no changes? If there was such a big world that was created, they call this a Sabbath and Mahar Levad. So one of the ways of explaining it is that the whole creation is only a Ha'ara of Hashem. It's only a reflection of Hashem. In other words, this is a subject in itself, and in other places they elaborate on this in detail. But what he's touching on is that the Gashmius, if I lift something, it engages me. It takes away my energy. If I lift something which is 100 pounds, it really weighs me down. 50 pounds doesn't make me so tired. It's not so heavy, but it still have to invest energy. Then what if I lift 40 pounds, 20 pounds, 1 pound? I have to invest less and less, but something. And the truth is, even if I lift something that weighs 1 ounce, there has to be a certain degree of energy invested in lifting 1 ounce. Because it would be 0, then 10 ounces should be 10 times 0. And 100 pounds should be 100 times 0. The fact that if I lift 10 ounces, I have to invest a little bit of energy means that if I lift 1 ounce, there's also a little bit of energy. What if it's less than 1 ounce? No matter how little it is, if it would be totally 0, then multiplying it by 10, 100 times would still should be 0. We had a teacher who drove us crazy, wouldn't let us hold anything in our hands while we were learning in class. And kids have a nature, everybody has a nature, hold something, pencil, this, that. I said it takes away from concentration. And we would argue with him. We're little children, I think 8, 9 years old. Doesn't take away from concentration. I'm listening to you. I listen better when I hold it. I said, no, you see, when a person falls asleep, the pencil fall out of his hand, right? That means there has to be a certain degree of concentration and consciousness to hold my pencil. Otherwise, why does it fall out of my hand? So that little bit should be for the class, not for holding the pencil. But basically, this is a general rule that if you would say 1 ounce is 0, then 10 ounces would be 0, and 100 pounds would be 0. But what if a person stands in front of a mirror and his reflection reflects in the mirror? Does he get tired? Is he investing any energy? And what if he'd stand there for 100 years, 1,000 years? I mean, you get tired from standing so long. So I sit down a little bit. But I'm saying the idea that I'm giving off, my reflection is being given off to the mirror, that doesn't take anything away from me. The whole creation, the whole universe, with all the spheres and all the world and everything that was created is only a ha'ara, which means it's only a reflection of Hashem, as if to say that he's not invested in it at all. Again, with Hashem, it's different. With humans, when I stand in front of a mirror, it has nothing to do with me. It happens by itself. By Hashem, nothing happens by itself. This aspect, that just like a reflection in a mirror means that there's no investment from my part, doesn't take anything away from me because it's only a reflection of me. That's how the whole creation that Hashem created takes nothing away from him, and therefore Lo Shalisi, it makes no change in Hashem. It doesn't do anything. This person thinks out and realizes that therefore the whole world has no substance, it's all Hashem alone, and that brings the person to have that passion of Ava for Hashem, because that's really what everything, the whole creation is all about. The Krishma who kisei. And that's why Krishma is kisei, which means a chair or a throne. Shu case aleph. What does that mean? Case, kais, so base kibble. Kais means a cup, like when a kiddush cup, you call a kais. Well, kais aleph, what does it mean? It's a kais for aleph. It means just like a cup receives water. Kais aleph means I receive within me Shaseichel Eloki, the godly seichel, yiskabel b'seichel anushi, yisagilu the seichel Eloki b'chol inyonav. That the Kriya Shema brings me to the point that my natural seichel becomes a vessel, a keli, that what I understand with my godly seichel should be registered in my natural seichel, and that becomes part of me, that I feel godliness in everything that I do, to the extent that everything that I do is going to be based on Seichel Eloki. So, of course, this goes back to what we said last time, the difference between Seichel Eloki and Seichel Anushi. Seichel Anushi means human logic. With human logic, you can understand Hashem, but to understand not just that Hashem exists, and not just that Hashem is running the world and everything that Gocha Pratis, but to understand that Hashem is everything. And everything else in the world is only a vessel through which Hashem communicates to us, through which Hashem transmits his light to us and energy to us. But really, all the gashmistic things that we do for parnasa, for health, for anything else that we need, it has no substance itself in its own right. That is something which, if a person understands that and it registers, that means that Seichel Eloki registers in my Seichel Anushi. Because seichel, human seichel, get it. It wouldn't. It doesn't. It can't. It can't sort of recognize the idea that the world is nothing in the presence of Hashem. There's a world, and the world is important, and the world has substance. And yes, Hashem is greater, bigger, stronger, controls. He leads things, but you can't just say that all the laws of nature are nothing. That's Seichel Anushi. Seichel Eloki says that all the laws of nature are Hashem. It's not separate from Hashem, and therefore that's the main thing that counts. There's a very beautiful sikha. It's a deep sikha from the Rebbe about 3 levels in how a person relates to the laws of nature. Talking about parnasa, I think the sikha is mainly talking about parnasa. So the 2 higher levels are, whatever says, one level is where a person recognizes, one level which is a higher level, a person recognizes that Hashem is in charge. And if I work on Shabbos, that's going to interfere with being a vessel for Hashem's bracha. So I know that I have to keep my store closed on Shabbos. I know that I have to do my business honestly. I know that I have to do it in a way that it's according to Torah, because it's not the business that's giving me money, it's Hashem giving me money. So it's good. What could be better than that? But the Rebbe says, but when there's a big test, which means that I know if I do something a certain way, according to the natural way, according to the normal business way, I can make a lot of money, but I'd be compromising something in my Yiddishkeit. So even if the person makes a decision, no, I'm not going to do that, because the main thing is Hashem, it's not the business. And I'm not going to compromise, because if I want to get the bracha, it's by doing what Hashem wants, and not this little trick in business, which is compromising my honesty, or compromising my Shabbos, or compromising something else in Yiddishkeit. What could be better than that? The Rebbe says there's a higher level where it's so clear in the person's mind that everything is from Hashem and through Hashem, to the point that it's not even a struggle. There's no struggle. The first person, there's a struggle, and he overcomes the struggle, and he says everything is from Hashem, so I'm not going to let that get in the way, which means that even though I know that Hashem is the one that gives me parnasa, but Hashem did decide that the parnasa will come through doing this and this and this in the natural order. So the natural order has some substance to me. It's important to me. And I look at it like something which is necessary. And then when something comes up, and according to the natural order, I need to compromise in my Yiddishkeit in one way or another, there's a struggle. And then there's a higher level where it's so clear to me that everything is Hashem, that it's not even a struggle. I just know if it's compromising something spiritually, it's out of the question. Yeah.
Would that be exotic, or can we be in Benoni and,
Well, you have to be on a higher level, but that's what needs to be accomplished in the davening. That's what it means that the seichel elaki. This is more coming from the godly seichel, the nefesh elakis, that this should register and become the way I see things with my nefesh bahamis. They tell the story about a businessman that he had to travel somewhere to do a business deal, but it was a big business deal, a lot of money involved. He's waiting for the train. Apparently the train is late. We're not talking about a train that comes every 5 minutes. Locally, we're talking about a train goes from city to city, which comes every few hours. So he decides, while I'm waiting, I'll daven mincha. Daven mincha. And of course, as usual, as he starts Shmon Esrei, choo-choo, that's when the train starts coming. Daven Shmon Esrei. What a normal person would do is speed things up a little bit and get on the train. And he said to himself, I'm davening Shmon Esrei, I'm not going to daven quicker because of this. I'm davening at my pace the way I always daven. So he davened, and the train came. He davened, and the train stopped. And he davened, and the train left, and he missed his train. Now he had to wait a lot of hours on this train station for the next train to come. While he was waiting, the train in the other direction comes back an hour or two later, or the other direction, coming from the place where he's supposed to go. Who walks out of his train? This man who does business with him, that he's supposed to do have a business meeting with him. And he takes like, what are you doing here? So he said, well, I saw that you're not coming. I thought maybe you changed your mind. I came here to talk to you. I really want you to do this business deal. So not only did it was this business deal, he didn't even have to take a trip. That guy came to him. He used to say, this chassid used to say, I never in my life missed a train. Because if I didn't get this train, I get the next train. That was his attitude. So how could he miss a train? There's always another train that comes after that. But that means that it was so clear in his mind. Like I said, he was thinking not to do it fast. I don't even know if he was thinking. He just davened, and that's it. Like I said, maybe he was on that level, that there was a struggle and he overcame the struggle. But the higher level, that's not even a struggle. Usually that's more for people on a much, much higher level. We'd be very happy if we overcome the struggle. That would be pretty satisfying. Okay, so the difference between this and everything was said before, the part of davening before is the preparation. It's all the hisbananos, think about the greatness of Hashem. All these things prepare me that ultimately my nefesh habahamis should become a vessel that the nefesh halakis, its understanding, would register in the seichel my nefesh habahamis, and I'll serve Hashem not just with davening and learning, but everything I do will be kosher, will be straight. We mean it'll be aligned with what Hashem wants. It'll be aligned with Torah mitzvahs. Yeah.
Which object is this again? Here?
Which what?
Yeah.
This is a chair. Yeah. Why is the chair? Because it means kais aleph. Again, the aleph represents Hashem, and kais means receives, and the nefesh habahamis becomes a kais. It becomes a vessel that the godly way of understanding registers in the nefesh habahamis. What could be higher than that? Higher than that is the menorah. That's Shemoneh Esrei. Why Shemoneh Esrei menorah? So we don't have time to go into all the details, but I'm just going to introduce the general idea that what he's going to talk about is something we touched on, I think, early in the year. We came to a certain minor that was going to go into the fact that the difference between Shemoneh Esrei and the other parts of davening is the other parts of davening we say loud. Shemoneh Esrei must be said quietly. And he's going to explain that there are two levels of love for Hashem. There's a level of love for Hashem, and there's a kind of love that is loud, very passionate, and there's a love for Hashem that's almost silent and quiet. Different kind of love. And on the surface, it appears almost as if the quiet love is a weaker one. That's why it's quiet. But the truth is, it's much deeper than the other love. And what is what is referred to as love like fire, and what is referred to as love like water. In the encyclopedia, Rabbi Yael Khan made an encyclopedia, and he didn't get too far, but he did get to Ois Aleph, the letter Aleph, and whatever there is in Chassidus with the letter Aleph. I don't think he got to Beis. So in Aleph, there's the word Ava, the love, that he goes into the different levels, many sources of differences to love like fire and love like water. Basically, we find psukim, we find places in Torah where love is compared to fire, which is most places. But then we also find places where love is compared to water. I'm just wondering if I have it here. I think I might have it here in the back. Oh, we never made this here, right? I didn't do those books. No, we never did it here. But there's a place in davening where it says, remember Avraham Avinu, who loved you, and his love flowed to you like water. So that's what we know, that there's fire and water, and actually the love like water is higher than the love like fire. It's also found in Tanya, chapter 9. So we'll go into that a little bit, and that's going to be the menorah. Okay, to be continued.